and this is a crisis caused by the Biden administration. Remember, 2 years ago, we had the lowest number of border crossings in decades. Today, we have the highest number of illegal crossings into the United States ever.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Run It By My Lawyer. I'm super excited today. The topic for today is going to be great. We're going to talk about the state of Texas and how it's been busing migrants from Texas to New York City and Washington, D.C. And it's a very interesting situation. They've bused so far, roughly about 12,000 people within the past year, maybe less. And, there's a lot of worry, concern. Is it legal? Is it not? Is it humane? Like, what's going on, right? So we're going to get into that. And in a short amount of time today, you're going to become an expert in this kind of, situation with these illegal aliens, right? It's funny. I don't even know. Okay. It's like, if you call them illegal aliens, that's going to upset like half the people, right? And if you call them migrants, that's going to upset the other half of the people. So I got a good idea as a compromise. I'll just call them illegal aliens sometimes, migrants some other times, all right? That way, either I make everyone happy or just everyone's going to be upset, one way or another. So that's what we'll do, just for the heck of it, okay? Before we do that, somebody ran it by my lawyer. I have a client or someone that called me, and then he had got into a wreck and is very severely injured. So I'm going to explain that little situation. Of course, I'm not going to use anyone's name. All right. And he gave me permission to talk about it. Before we start, so my son just started high school a week or two ago. Congratulations, Jude. I can't believe I have a son in high school. And we're really excited for him. He's going to do great. And I'm super happy. All right. So run it by my lawyer. As I always say, I encourage everyone to run things by me. And a lot of times it becomes a full-fledged episode. A lot of people ask me about Elon Musk and his purchase of Twitter that has gone kind of into litigation now. And I just did a whole episode on it. I'll drop the link in the link below. So this past week, another person ran it by my lawyer. This poor guy is 59 years old. He was walking the boardwalk in Pacific Beach, kind of like just north of Mission Beach, right? And he's just walking along. It was a nice sunny day. And he gets hit by this guy on a Segway. Segway is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a skateboard with I call it like this podium. In fact, I just call it a traveling podium. Like you got like the guys like this and, they're just traveling like this on this and they're standing up. And he runs into this guy. Okay, it was a total accident. And it's on the boardwalk. Now, keep in mind, the Segways are not allowed on the boardwalk. Okay, no electric, bikes or skateboards or anything like that is allowed now and no electric scooters because there were so many injuries from that. So the guy was illegally on the boardwalk, riding the Segway. So my guy gets hit by that and wow, it knocked him out. What happened was it was hit so bad in the wrong spot. He ended up having his right kneecap broken in like half, okay, to the point where he needed then a surgery, and he needed, that was, 3 weeks ago, and now he can barely walk. It's going to take him some longer to recover. The doctor said for the rest of his life, he might have this pain in his knee and he's going to have knee issues for the rest of his life. He has 2 screws in there, a little bit of mesh, and my God, it's all screwed up for this poor guy. Now, I'm not a doctor, right? I'm just a lawyer, so I can help him with his legal stuff. Okay. What the heck? He said I could use even a picture of his knee, but I'm debating using it. Okay, close your eyes for the next 3 seconds if you don't want to see this kind of blood and how it was stitched up. Oh man, that was horrible, this poor guy. Okay, so anyway, now get this. So after he got hit by a Segway, he was more or less knocked. He couldn't remember exactly what happened right after that. There were some good Samaritans that came to his help, and one guy who was bleeding so much, one guy took off his own shirt and used it as a tourniquet to kind of help stop the bleeding. Okay, and he did not I emphasize, he did not get the name of the person that hit him. All right. And to no fault of his own. I mean, he was like knocked out, and he like didn't understand what's going on. He was just in a lot of pain, all that jazz. He was bleeding everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Right. Later, a lifeguard came and they took some information, but we don't have the information of the guy that hit him. Okay. I guess the first thing is, no matter how knocked out you are, get up and get the info, before anyone runs away. So our job as lawyers is to see if we could help get some recovery, because he's going to have this pain forever. He's going to have a surgery. He had a surgery. He might need another one. There's going to be a lot of medical expenses, all that stuff, right? So we want to get recovery, at least the only recovery we could get, is financial recovery, right? There's not like, the doctors do their part, the lawyers do their part to help this guy have a better life moving forward. And the first order of business is this. So I asked him what kind of insurance he has. Okay, so he has insurance. He has farmer's insurance. Now, what is very important that everyone should have is what's called uninsured motorist. Okay, so what happens when you get insurance, you can cover, like if your car gets in a crash, you can cover if you hit somebody and you're at fault. That's called liability. And then underinsured motorist is if somebody hits you and that person either runs off or doesn't have insurance, or his insurance is very low but the injuries to you are very high. So that's what the underinsured motorist covers, okay? It's the same thing. Underinsured motorist, sometimes it's called uninsured motorist, that type of thing, right? So he has a good policy for that, thankfully. He has $100,000, which is pretty good. The problem, though, is that in the details of the policy, I have this joke about insurance, and my joke goes like this. Insurance covers everything except the one problem you have. All right, so that's my joke about insurance. And sadly, it might apply in this case, because in the insurance policy for his underinsured motorist, he's covered if a vehicle hits him. Now, what is a vehicle? How do you pronounce this? Is it vehicle or vehicle? What do you guys think? Vehicle, right? Okay, so if he's hit by a vehicle, we're lawyers, right? Obviously, a Segway is a vehicle if you ask Joe Samo, okay? But what does the policy actually say? The policy defines a vehicle as a car or truck that is licensed by the DMV and able to drive on the roads and freeways, okay? So motorcycle counts as a vehicle. A car counts as a vehicle. A golf cart counts as a vehicle. What does not count as a vehicle? A freaking Segway. Okay, I would say that that's not going to count. So what that means is his auto insurance will not cover this injury, most likely, unless, I don't know how we could get around that part. The other thing is he's like, what about the city of San Diego? It's illegal to ride these electric, Segways and stuff on the boardwalk, but they always allow it. And there's all these people that ride it all day long. He's right about that part. And he's wrong that the city will probably be liable. I always say suing the city of San Diego in the city of San Diego is always tough. You're like at a home field disadvantage, right? And I don't know. That's usually the failure to enforce laws. It's a tough one to stretch that into liability for this injury. We'll look into it some more, but it's going to be a toughie. Okay, so I always encourage everyone, right? Run it by my lawyer, 619-672-1741. My only complaint is I don't get enough calls. I love hearing from you folks and talking about these things. All right, let's talk about Texas, okay? So here's what's going on. Texas, Arizona, California, they border, right? Share a border with Mexico. So all these states have had, sort of complications kind of with immigration, right? Now, it goes like this. They're, especially Texas recently, like it's kind of heated up, okay? Not just because of the heat wave, okay? It's heated up these kind of issues with immigration and how, the state of Texas wants to stop illegal immigration. And a lot of times they feel that the federal government is not doing enough right now to stop illegal immigration, sorry. And so in the past year, like I said, Texas shipped about 12,000 of these migrants to New York and DC. And why New York and DC? You know why, right? It's just kind of like, we'll show those liberals if they want to make the federal laws that allow the, leniency for the illegal aliens, then fine, let the illegal aliens live over there, okay? That's kind of the theory, right? And so they'll put them on these buses, and it's like, come on, dude, at least get them an airline ticket, dude. The bus, it's like a 40 or 50-hour ride from Texas to New York, okay? And it's very unclear how they go, like what kind of accommodations there are on the buses, if it's safe, if it's not safe, if is it crowded, not crowded, like where do they sleep at these nights, like in between? Where do they get one bus? Do they transfer buses? It's like all of these things, there's very little transparency in terms of how all of this is going on, okay? Now, I'm a lawyer, right? So I want to get into kind of like what's happening, the legality of it, or the illegality of it, right? Is it right? Is it a good idea? Is it humane? I don't get into as much of those, the political issues. We're going to talk about, is it allowed for the state of Texas to get these immigrants on a bus and just ship them to New York and Washington, D.C.? Is it legal? Okay. First, right out of the bat, they're not going to send them to Detroit because that would just be way too inhumane to make them go to Detroit, right? So the United States Federal Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 states, Congress shall have the authority to establish uniform law of naturalization. So what that means is that it's only the federal government, the way the United States Supreme Court has interpreted this is that the federal government has the authority and the sole authority to regulate immigration, all right? So that states can't say something like, oh, we're going to allow more immigrants in from other countries, or we're going to allow less immigrants in, or we're going to have this extra penalty on immigrants, illegal immigrations, things like that. That is the authority of the federal government, and they've never given that authority over to the states, right? That is like I said, the authority of the federal government. And there's a lot of times where the federal government and a state government will conflict, right? And here, this is a major area of conflict because the state of Texas is saying, well, the immigration laws are either being too lenient or they're not being enforced, right? Usually it's the second one because these people are all illegal aliens, meaning they came here illegally. They were either seeking asylum or economic refuge or whatever. Nonetheless, they're not legal citizens. And they should be deported, but they're not being deported because the federal government is not, Joe Biden is not enforcing the laws, right? So that's what Texas is saying. And the federal government is a little bit more relaxed, all right? And as the state of Texas would say, it's probably because they're not the ones that have to shoulder all of this, And it's just because, Mexico's closer to Texas than it is the state of Montana, right? Or the state of New York, okay? So it presents a big conflict. Now, I want to address a few things. In 2010, right, 12 years ago, the state of Arizona, having their own issues with illegal aliens, they passed a law in 2010 in the state of Arizona. They called it the Show Your Papers Law. And what it was that anytime asked, migrants had to show legal papers, meaning like legal, like a green card or citizenship or passport or whatever, right? So they had to show it upon request. And if they don't, they could get arrested, okay? That was the law that they passed. I think there was a similar law that Nazi Germany passed, as I recall. Show your papers. I'm pretty sure. Okay, but anyway, that's what a lot of the opponents said. So show your papers law, right? And any police officer, anytime asked, show your papers, and it was illegal for an illegal alien to get a job, and things like that. Okay, so that was in 2010. It made its rounds, it was challenged on the, constitutional grounds. And in the year 2013, the United States Supreme Court made a decision. Now, the United States Supreme Court was a lot different in 2013 than it is now, So I think, and it was a decision that had 3 dissenters. Justice Scalia was one of them, the late Justice Scalia. And I think that, this Supreme Court may rule something different, but this is what the ruling was in 2013. That ruling was that was unconstitutional for the state of Arizona to have that type of law because it was intruding upon the authority given to the federal government in terms of applying a uniform naturalization law. So it was illegal for Arizona to do that. So what the ruling was in 2013 in the Supreme Court in Arizona versus the United States of America was that it's illegal for the police to arrest somebody solely on immigration status. It was illegal to require people to have, documentation with them at all times. It was illegal for them to ban work for people who were illegal aliens. The only thing that kind of survived that was if there was somebody that was an illegal alien, or some sort of like probable cause, they could only kind of detain them like for a very, very short amount of time. And that's only to get them to the federal authorities, kind of like to get them to federal authorities or maybe transfer them if they were arrested for something from the state jail to the federal jail type of thing, or hold them until the federal authorities got there. So that was it. Other than that little exception, all the other laws was held to be a violation of the United States Constitution. Okay, so that was the decision in 2013. Now, so we have to take that backdrop to what's going on now in terms of how we're analyzing what the state of Texas is doing. Okay, now Governor Greg Abbott knows the laws and he knows that Supreme Court decision. You know why? Because he's a freaking lawyer and a former judge. Okay. He went to Vanderbilt Law School, and after law school, he worked as a lawyer, and then he ultimately got became the judge in the state of Texas. Okay. So he was a state court judge. And then President Reagan, when he was the governor, H.W. Bush. Well, I said Reagan. Forgive me. I meant Bush. When President George H.W. Bush was the governor of Texas, he appointed him to the to become a judge in the Texas Supreme Court. All right, and so then he became, like I said, a Texas Supreme Court judge. This is Greg Abbott, and then after that, he left that office and then applied to be or ran for government office. Okay, so he knows all of these laws, Greg Abbott. He knows what he's doing, so to speak. And another thing I gotta say is this. I don't want anyone to think, because New York City, the mayor of New York City, he started complaining and he started asking for federal funds to do this or to help these immigrants. And then he asked that this, basically saying the state of Texas can't do this, and he threatened at one point to ship people to Texas, like volunteers to campaign against Greg Abbott, to which Greg Abbott said,
I kind of feel like Clint Eastwood. Go ahead, Mayor. Make my day.
Yes, that was the governor saying, I feel like Clint Eastwood. And, I tell the mayor of New York, make my day. Right? Okay. So the reason why I say that New York used to do something similar. Okay. And they did it for a long time. And I think they still do it. And it was with homeless people. They had this policy where New York State would ship homeless people out of New York State. And at one point, the state of New Jersey sued New York over this. And New York said, it's 100% legal for us to bus homeless people to other states. It was called the, ready? Special One-Time Assistance Program. Okay, SOTA, not SODA, SOTA, Special One-Time Assistance Program. And what the one-time meant, that means a one-way ticket. All right. You know what a one-way ticket does not have? A return trip, right? So, yes, they were and get this, they incentivized a lot of homeless people. What they said is, we'll send you to a state. And some of them were sent to Texas, okay, a few years ago. So they'd say, okay, we'll send you. You want to go to Hawaii? We'll send you to Hawaii. We'll send you to California. We'll send you to Texas. We'll send you wherever you want. And we'll give you 1 year of rent. Okay, so the state of New York did this, right? So it's going to be tough for the state of New York to completely say that this is unfair and inhumane, right? Unless they want to say something like, well, Texas should pay for a year of their rent, or Texas should send money with them for us to take care of them, or something like that. I don't know. But forget about the state of New York. I don't care. I'm just discussing whether or not this the thing with busing illegal aliens is lawful or not. Okay, so. What did I say earlier? And the Texas governor, he made a smart aleck remark that I kind of like. He said, hey, what's the problem here? New York is an ideal destination for these migrants who could receive an abundance of city services and housing that New York mayor promised as a sanctuary city. And he said, I hope the mayor of New York follows through on his promise of welcoming all migrants with open arms, right? These freaking campaign promises. Yes, the mayor of New York said things like that. I will welcome these, we're going to sanctuary city and we'll help people, in need. And then all of a sudden you get these buses of immigrants and they started complaining. This is the New York's or the state of Texas's position. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about it. Is it legal? Is it not legal? Remember what I said about Governor Abbott. He was a Texas Supreme Court judge, and he knows what he's doing. Okay, forgive me. I accidentally said he was appointed by President H.W. Bush. I should have said President W. Bush. Okay, it was the son, not the dad, that had appointed him when he was the governor of the state of Texas. I may have said the dad, but it was the son. It just hit me that I may have said the dad. Okay, anyway, so he knows the law. Get this. This is what he said, because he knows the Supreme Court precedent says a state cannot, like the state of Arizona and that Supreme Court, they were not able to, make laws that effectuated and intruded upon the federal government's right to, a uniform law with immigration, or naturalization, right? So, and that the state of Arizona, it was unconstitutional for them to arrest illegal aliens. It was unconstitutional of them for, to keep them detained, to make them show their papers, all that jazz. So the way Governor Abbott, a former judge, goes around this is this. Okay, you guys ready? Everyone's sitting down. You guys are sitting down. You guys ready? This is the justification on legal grounds. He says, we're not arresting them for being illegal aliens. And we're not, if you look at it, they're extraditing them, right? Okay, because they're, sending them off. We're not arresting them for being illegal aliens. We're not extraditing them for being illegal aliens. We would never do that because that would be unconstitutional. We want to follow the law. What they violated was state trespassing laws, meaning when they cross the border, that's private government property and sometimes private property of like an individual rancher or something. So clearly when they crossed the border, they went onto these private lands without authority from the private landowner or the government of Texas. And it was the state of Texas's property. Thank you very much. And so therefore they were trespassing. So what we're arresting them for is trespassing, all right? And what we're sending them off for is trespassing, because we know the law here in the state of Texas and we would never violate the law, and we're not sending them off for being illegal aliens, okay? God, I hate lawyers and all their freaking excuses, right? This will be challenged sooner or later. Now, New York sending off homeless people is different in the sense that the people, theoretically they wanted to get, free rent, wanted to go somewhere in theory, and it wasn't effectuating immigration policies by sending homeless people off, right? So this one is different in the sense that they're sending illegal aliens out, which is supposed to be only something the federal government can do. I predict it will be challenged, okay? This is my prediction. I predict it will be challenged. And if it's challenged fast enough, and by this Supreme Court, I predict that they'll say the following: Sounds good to us. It sounds like trespassing to us. And it sounds like they violated those laws. And it sounds like, they opted to go to another state, instead of going to jail. And it sounds good to us. I think if it was challenged by previous Supreme Court justices, that it would have been ruled to be unconstitutional. If the Supreme Court changes, maybe they'll rule otherwise. So my prediction is it'll be challenged and it will be upheld as constitutional. So Governor Abbott, you win. Send them anywhere you want, I guess. Okay. Just don't send them to Detroit. Please be a little humane. Listen, I love hearing from you folks. I want to hear your comments. What do you think about this? Hear about any other cases? Like I said, I want to hear from everyone. All right. Have a great week. I'll hear from you and see you next week.